Good morning everybody and welcome back to Martindale. Last week I was on Bed of Fell and this week I'm on its next door neighbour Steel Knots and its summit Pikeawassa. It is about 5:15 in the morning, about half an hour after sunrise. I arrived just in time to catch sunrise, and despite the fact that once again it's largely overcast, we did get a little bit of colour in the sky towards Ullswater, and so I spent a few minutes trying to get a few shots. And now I'm just waiting for the sun to come up and start to illuminate the hills around where I am, and I'm feeling very optimistic this morning. I think we could be in for a really good morning's photography. Pikeawassa has some very prominent rock features right at the summit, and when the light levels come up a little bit they are definitely going to be the subject of a photograph. But before we get to the photography, I do have a little bit of a confession to make, and I think that conditions here are going to be absolutely fantastic, but I fear today's shoot is going to be limited not by the light but by batteries. I have managed to bring out one spare battery which is flat, so I only have two fully charged batteries. One for the camera that I use to film and one for the camera that I use for stills. And so if I seem a little less polished than usual, that's because I'm trying to do everything in one take to save the battery on this camera. There are two churches here in Martindale, St Peter's, which is the newer and larger one to be found at the foot of Hallin Fell, and St Martin's, which is between Steel Knots and Bed of Fell, a little bit further on the road. And I've climbed up from the wrong one. I started at St Martin's, and what I should have done was come up from St Peter's. If I'd have done that, I would have reached a viewpoint with a far better view along Ullswater. So the final thing that I need to do today before I head home is to head along there and just check that out so that I can come back another time and get that shot. The light levels are starting to come up now, which is just as well, because as usual when I'm out exploring the fells, I'm shooting with this, which is my Canon M50 mirrorless camera. And when I come up here onto the fells, I shoot entirely handheld. I don't bring a tripod with me, and that was causing me some problems when I first arrived. The light was so low that I had to bump my ISO up to 400 in order to get a reasonable shutter speed, and even then I had to come down from f8 where I normally shoot to f5.6. And so I'm wondering, what can I do about that in future? Now, a lot of you will have far more sophisticated cameras with inbuilt in-body image stabilization, IBIS. This doesn't have that. It has a little gyroscope in the lens. Canon's image stabilization is mostly done in the lenses, and I don't really trust it all that well. And the one thing that I want to get is sharp shots. So I may have to consider bringing another little tripod with me, and unfortunately that's just going to add a little bit of extra weight to my pack. I'd better crack on with it really and take some shots. I'm going to start by focusing on the view to the east, so the view towards Bonscale Pike and Ullswater back in the direction of Penrith. To be honest with you, there are so many compositions up here. I'm going to try an array of different shots. I'm not going to walk you through all of them. That would get very boring and make a very long video. So what we'll do is we'll just show you the shots in a moment. So there you go, that was a few of the shots that I have taken so far. Even a little selfie appearing there at the end. Could it be making a comeback? Who knows? Anyway, yeah, like I said, I didn't talk you through all of those compositions, but basically what I'm doing here is I'm looking for some sort of foreground up here on the top of Pikeawassa, and then something in the background, usually Ullswater, the lake. Now, all of the shots that you saw there would have been in 16:9 landscape format, and I think people that are watching this channel for a long time will get bored of me saying this, but I generally only share landscape orientation photos on my channel. I save the portrait orientation shots for Instagram. So if you think that there's a few compositions there that may have worked better in portrait orientation, do pop along and check out my Instagram account and see if they appear there. And I promise I will post at least one or two up on there. And there might be some compositions, like I say, that work better in portrait orientation. Now, when I come to places like this, I like to do a little bit of research. I like to try and find out a little bit about the background of this sort of place. Now, I wasn't able to find why the summit is called Pikeawassa, but in my research, I did uncover one very interesting fact, and that is that this is the location of the very first James R. Burns vlog. So if you want to know what James was like before he became an internationally renowned photographer, then check out that video, and I will leave a link in the description below. I'm filming this video on Tuesday the 7th of July, and here in the UK government allowed hotels and campsites, guest houses, B&Bs, that sort of thing to reopen as of Saturday the 4th. So this is the first shoot that I've done really since we've had tourists back in the Lake District. And I have to be honest, it was a lot busier on my way in. I saw more cars, and I have to drive past two fairly major campsites, and they look very busy to me indeed. And I have to be honest, I do have a little bit of mixed feelings about that. It's great, obviously, to have the tourists back in the Lake District. The place really hasn't been the same without them. And it's obviously great for my business because it does mean that I can resume my one-to-ones and I can start work on my autumn workshops. Fingers crossed we won't be having another lockdown, but that's what is really worrying me, and that's what's the other thing that's worrying me at the moment, and that is that we are going to end up ultimately having another lockdown. I think that people, you know, what I've seen, perhaps a little bit too excited, a little bit too eager to come back out. And as I say, the campsites did look really busy, so I'm very concerned that we're going to face another lockdown. And if that happens in autumn, I am going to be absolutely knackered, because that is going to be my busiest time of year. And if I can't get customers here, I'm going to be in deep trouble. Update on the battery, so far so good, things are looking okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my attention 180 degrees, and I'm going to start photographing towards the west, towards Bed of Fell and towards the Nab. What did I tell you? There is shots in every direction up here. Fantastic, another great location. Having a brilliant time. Anyway, battery situation looking pretty good on this camera. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head down from the summit. It's actually quite cold up here. It's quite chilly despite the fact that we're in July. And I'm going to head along this ridge and we're going to go and check out this other viewpoint that I should have visited first off, and see what we can see along Ullswater up towards Penrith. Now on the way, I will keep my camera handy and I will take any shots that I see as I'm heading over in that direction. So there you go, that's not a bad view at all, is it? So we've got Ullswater, obviously, and this is Howtown directly in front of us. And then off to your right, we have Bonscale Pike, and then behind me we have Hallin Fell. And the path that I've been following actually runs down to Howtown. I don't actually want to go that far. But from here you can actually see St. Peter's Church at Martindale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and pick my way down to the church and then follow the road back to the car. Before I do that, I do just want to say a big thank you to everybody that watched and commented on last week's video. If I'm honest with you, when I was editing the photos, I wasn't really sure about them. I thought that they lacked a little bit of impact because the conditions were not particularly good. Diffuse light, not an awful lot of contrast. And I nearly didn't release the video, but I decided that I would, and largely the video was very, very well received, and I got a lot of lovely comments, particularly about the images, which I really appreciate. And it's made me see the images in a completely different light. It has been a really difficult time for me the last few months with lockdown, and I do just want to say a really big thank you to everybody who's watched my videos, everybody who has left encouraging comments, everybody that reads my blog, everybody that follows me on social media, and everybody that has booked Skype one-to-ones to keep my business ticking over. I really do appreciate it. I'm very much a confidence player. My photography is much better when I'm feeling confident. When I'm feeling down and I lack confidence, I tend to play it safe, and my photography as a result suffers. So confidence is a really big thing, and I really do need the support that I get from you guys, and I really do appreciate it. So I just wanted to take this opportunity just to thank you once again for all the support that you've given me over the last few months.